Our second topic is something that is very close to my heart, and it's something that Jesse will, of course, not agree with me. And it's about whether working from home improves your productivity. It's something that has been discussed for very long. I think some companies have made it a point to ask their employees to take one day in the week voluntarily. They can work from home. Apparently, it saves the company's resources. It keeps the employee happy. And there will be other approaches as well. Does it work? Does it not? My editor doesn't believe me when I tell him that it works for me. So I have to come to office every day. Shamni has to travel 120 kilometers every day to office and back. It's a lot. But let's see. Let's see what the experts have to say. So may I call upon Jagjit Singh of PwC India. Jagjit Singh is the human capital leader of PwC India. What the title means is that he heads HR for PwC in India, which is a large organization. PwC, we all know, it's among the largest consulting and audit firms, both in India and worldwide. Jagjit has more than 25 years of experience. He is responsible for making PwC a better place to work for employees. So I'm going to ask him after this if he allows them to work from home. And he worked earlier with Deutsche Bank, with HSBC, and with HUL. Welcome, Jagjit. Thanks for coming. Then may I call upon Jessie to join us on stage. Jessie Paul of Paul Writer. Jessie Paul, she's the CEO of Paul Writer. It's a marketing advisory services and custom publishing, national and regional conferences, and community as a service. A lot of stuff. And she has developed the company into a marketing community of almost 30,000 senior executives, which is actually quite a lot. She has worked with Wipro, iGet, and Infosys. She's quite a well-known figure in Bangalore, and we are very happy to have her here with us today. Thank you for joining. May I call upon Preeti to join us on stage. Preeti Madappa of Intel. Preeti Madappa, she is the Director HR for Intel, all of South Asia, not just India. We all know Intel. We have grown up with Intel, the world's largest semiconductor company. It has given us the PC chip. And Preeti, of course, apart from driving HR operations and leadership capability building, she also drives cultural transformation efforts in the company. That's why she's here today. So maybe working from home will be one of them. We'll find out. So she's been with Intel for 14 of her 18-year career. And it's great to have you with us, Preeti. Thanks a lot for joining. Finally, may I call upon Meena Ganesh to join us on stage from Portia Medical. Meena is a very, very familiar figure in Bangalore. She's the co-founder. Right now, her current avatar is co-founder and CEO of Portia Medical. So she's a serial entrepreneur, along with her husband, who we all know very well. They had earlier founded Tutor Vista. She was also CEO and MD of Pearson Education Services when Tutor Vista was taken over by Pearson. Portia Medical, of course, brings a range of complex medical services to your home, which is something we all want. So she is also co-promoter of several hot startups like BigBasket.com, Bluestone.com. You know all the names. It's an honor to have you with us today. Meena, thanks a lot for joining us. So we'll have to start this panel now. Can we have some applause before we begin?
Thank you, Alokesh. Very warm welcome to the panelists. Whenever we were thinking about this panel, we decided to mix it up deliberately because when it comes to working from home, we realized there were no structured responses. We wanted a lot of varied responses, people to challenge some of the things this whole topic presents. Increasingly, we find as we interact with companies that there is young people that they want flexibility at work. It is not gender specific issue any longer. Everybody wants a lot of flexibility at work. So we decided to have a panel which has shifted different gears, and somebody like Jessie, who was very rebellious when I spoke to her, and she said, I'm not an HR person and I hate working from home. So great, Jessie, this is why we want you here. So let's start with you, on your thoughts on this subject. Yeah.
So I think a lot depends on the home itself, and unlike the US, we have a lot more people at home. So there's a huge crowd out there. So there are days when me and others in my office come into work and it's like, God, it's so nice to be here. It's so calm, it's so quiet, you've got coffee, you know. And your house is in complete chaos and you don't want to sit there and try to work because no one's going to let you work. So I think it depends on the stage of life you're in. It depends on the infrastructure that you have. I did try working from home on a sabbatical. I was trying to write my book, and all that happened was that the entire building staff thought I was the one person at home to help them out with water. BBMP was trying to break down our driveway. Everything became my problem. I asked them, why me? They said, but you're the only one at home. Fine. The maid, no one is structured. We don't have water. What to do now? I'm like, what would you do if I wasn't there? But you are. Right? So I think the trouble is that we don't have a structured environment that allows you to work peacefully from home. I see the upside in terms of no commute, and that is a huge upside. But unless you've got your act together on the infrastructure, or the company is willing to pay for an extra room, and you have the mental discipline to put the structure in place, it's going to be tough. But on the other hand, I do want to say that the previous panel actually didn't talk about social media re-engineering the workplace. So in some ways, if you get the infrastructure out of the way, social media can actually help you to have a very nice work life. Even though you work remotely, you can still have that water cooler and the friendships and all of that. And I should add that, people like Gautam Ghosh are people that I met when I went onto Twitter, because I was starting off a company, there were only 2 people in office, and I missed having all those people to talk to. So I actually went on Twitter to find friends, and it was my social outlet. So
Right.
some of the downside can be reduced by technology, but I think the biggest issue is discipline and infrastructure.
Yeah, I would want to bring you in at this stage. Our company is really thinking about this. Do you come with a lot of requests where people come to you and say that they want that flexibility?
Absolutely. I think from a PwC perspective, we are way down the road on this one. I think, as you rightly said, flexibility is now gender neutral. So I think besides the fact that we allow people to compress our weeks, we allow them to do flexible weekends. I think from a work from home perspective, the only challenge we face, we empower our people a lot. We respect them that they will do the right things. So from a technology perspective, we've done the structure. So the infrastructure is available. The issue is where it is client-facing work. I think the client-facing work is where we then leave it to them to work out with their managers how they will run their schedules. And I think our experience has been that as we've launched this in the last few years, it's not that everybody is going to work from home. I think people are responsible, you can trust them. Wherever they have situations, they need flexibility, they do take those options. So I think for us it's been great. I did a role where prior to joining PwC, I was the head of HR for Deutsche Bank, and I did that role working from home. That was my contract with them. So I think I've experienced it,
Yes.
and it's just amazing.
Okay. So at some level you found the organization open to the whole.
Yeah, I think one, the organization is open, and from a people perspective, the staff would say, if the head of HR can do it, why can't I do it? You surely have challenges at home, because your spouse would not want you loitering around the home whole day, and then you still need to be very particular about creating those official and personal boundaries. So there would be times they would just get on to work as early as 7 in the morning, and US starts pretty late. So I think those contracts with your spouse need to be worked out, to my mind.
So,
However, I think it works well.
he is talking about those personal contracts. I would want to bring you in at this point, Preeti. When we were talking, and one of the issues that came out was we're reaching a stage where some companies find, we have the Yahoo example, where they found that productivity was not happening, and at some level she had to haul the people back to work because the whole team spirit was getting lost, the dynamic was missing. What do you have to say there, even as companies are opening up to the thought of allowing people to work from home?
Yeah, at least from an Intel perspective, and many of you know that our chairman Andy Bryant actually had this quotation, which is very famous, which said that our core ingredient is sand, and everything else is people, or is all the value that people add to it, right? So when you think in that context, our people are fundamental. We're a core technology company, but everything is actually contributed by the people into it. So in that context, I think about more than anything else, it's what is flexibility, and I think Jagdeep talked about that, flexibility being so important. In a core R&D environment, more than anything, we're finding that it's when people come to work, when they're able to actually share perspectives. Innovation, which is a core part of what we do, happens best when you are surrounded in an environment where you can share ideas, you can bring those new ideas to bear. There's a different buzz and an energy that comes to bear in the organization when people are at work. We have found that, at least from an Intel perspective, efficiency and the products that we're able to do are so core and critical for us that it happens best when people come together and are together in the workplace. We thrive on innovation.
So at some level, you're saying productivity does suffer when people work from home.
I think we don't want to confuse the productivity piece and with the life needs that people have, right? So yes, we believe that when people bring their best to work, that's a far more productive workplace for us. But notwithstanding that, the idea is to be sensitive to people's life needs and manage that in ways that are best suited for their personal situations. And that's what we have found works. So that maintaining that balance between what people are looking for and what organizations need from them is going to be critical.
Neena, I wanted you to be part of this panel simply because you've wielded many roles, and you're involved with startups, you're involved with big organizations in the past. What is it like? There are life needs that a person has, and at the same time, there is this whole bit about companies wanting face time for various reasons, whether it be because you need to face clients or whether it be because of the sheer dynamic that it creates. What's been your experience?
So like you said, I've worked across corporate as well as startups, but I can say that in a startup environment, getting people together on the same table, literally on the same dining table, becomes very important, especially in the initial stages where you're trying to figure out what does the customer need, what are you trying to build here, is it really working, what's going wrong, and we have meetings at the drop of the hat, just getting 3 people together to thrash things out. It's very difficult to do that from a distance. And having said that, if both in my earlier company, Tutor Vista, and in Portia, most of our employees work from home because the model is such. The entire delivery of our tutoring was being done by women who was, and a lot of men, interestingly, who were working from home. And this could either be the only career for them or a second career for them, or work from home moms who want to spend 2-3 hours and still earn a nice little income. It changed the lives of thousands of people because there was a new option, and that was a very intellectually fulfilling option of teaching children in the case of Tutor Vista. In the case of Portia Medical, because we provide home health care services, all our employees work from their home. So they get up in the morning, they're told where to go, they go do those services, and they come back, right? So it's a slightly different context. In the first case, it's completely work from home. Here, you work out of your home, but using your home as the base.
But as somebody running the show, did you find that you had to do some kind of mentoring or some kind of intervention to see that certain things were in place for this to happen effectively? Did you have to intervene at some stage? Did you find that HR issue?
Yeah, in fact, there's a lot that you have to do.
Actually, I would want you to share your experience,
Yes.
yeah.
So if you look at in Tutor Vista, and then I'll talk about in Portia, we never saw those employees. If you really look at it, we hired them online, we trained them online, they delivered their services online on our platform, and we used to manage them, manage their customer feedback and the quality of whatever they did. Everything was being done online. So it is a whole, so the 2 things which played a very important role. One was the technology. We had to use so many bits of technology to make sure all of this actually came together. Just to give you an example, if there is a session that has to be done for John, and there's a Vijay Lakshmi sitting in let's say in Vijayawada, who's taking that session, and Vijay Lakshmi's comp fails because there's no power, my system needs to have a way of ensuring that, let's say, Shobha sitting in Rajamundry can take that over and just take it from where it is. So there's so much of technology. I need to know that And the other problem is maybe Vijay Lakshmi is sleeping because she had to get up at 2 in the morning, had to start the session, maybe her alarm didn't go off. So how do you ensure that people are doing, first of all, what they're supposed to do at the time, they're doing it the right way and effectively, and they do feel part of the organization still. Very, very tough to build that organization culture when everybody, the core team that used to sit in the office was 200, we had 3,000 people all around. So it's a completely on the head kind of a model. So a lot of work needs to go into that. And the same thing is happening here as well.
Yeah, you
I
wanted to
was
say
just going to
something.
make a point that,
Yeah.
I think we talked in one of the earlier sessions about the newer generation and what is it that they're looking for in terms of flexibility. My experience also tells me that the newer generation, the younger population, are so savvy and so keen to make a mark and grow their careers as well, that for them, the excitement lies in the workplace. Right? So when they're in the office, they're working and tinkering in the lab, they're trying out and testing different things. Those are the things that bring energy to them. So, and that is something which, when you have a regular work from home policy, as much as we definitely support that based on individual needs, we find that nothing can replace that essence of being in the workplace, surrounded by your colleagues and teammates in the lab, exchanging wonderful ideas.
Yeah, also, just to add to that, I think it's really said, I think it's the balance. I think we need to give employees the choice. We need to give them those avenues so that when there is a personal need, there is a personal crisis, those choices are available. I think our experience has been that wherever we have, as and when these choices have been made, we've trusted our people. And whenever we've trusted our people, the responsibility, they're really shown to be very responsible in terms of ensuring that they've gone the extra mile. So our experience in terms of productivity, wherever people have had to take these options, has been that actually productivity is shot up. Because they've just been very responsible, they've gone the extra mile, they've ensured that even if they're not in the workplace, they've collaborated much in advance. So I think it's not that everybody is working from home.
Yes.
I think it's been need-based and we balanced it.
But the only thing I would say that it is very role dependent. Okay,
Yeah.
it has to be. Probably in an organization of 10,000 people, you'll probably be able to get maybe 500 people who are in the right roles, who can actually work from home over elongated periods of time to the productivity and to the standards of quality that the organization is happy with. So it will always be. So it is right. You're right, Jagjeet. It's something that you can offer to people based on their time of their life, etc., provided they're in the roles which permits them. So that becomes, and then you still need to have a lot of structures around that to make sure that they are delivering what they're supposed to do to the productivity piece, but also there is some buddy and the social piece is not totally lost out for them, so that they feel completely alienated from the organization.
See, I think we've talked about productivity, and I think there are ways to manage that, like Meena says, with role and structure and all of that. And we do allow working from home obviously we get better people if you allow that. But the one thing that, so none of our people work completely from home, or they would have been working in the office and then opted for working from home or something. Because the trouble is that as a new organization, your culture isn't written down. So I can't actually write down and tell you this is okay, this is how you talk to the client. A lot of it is happening because it's the first time we're doing something. And I think, some of the, what happened with Yahoo, etc., it's because culture transmission. Your organization probably evolves every 2-3 years, and if a person is completely sitting isolated and remote and you don't have any of this codified, how do they catch up with you? And I think that's actually the biggest danger with working from home without having a written down policy on culture transmission, because then, the rest of them are all learning from the CEO and clients and whatever dropping by, whereas this poor person is, trying desperately through WhatsApp and Skype to catch up.
But did you find that, I wanted your thoughts especially on this structure bit. Even in the existing organizations, do you feel that the structures are in place really to deal with people who work from home?
So we've just started with our full remote office in Gurgaon. It is from a person who worked with us for 3 years in Bangalore, and then she transferred into Gurgaon. And immediately we have put in, and we're a very small company, but we still put in a system, Nimble, so that, everything is entered into the system, because we can no longer rely on this, I heard you talking to so-and-so on the phone, and because in Bangalore we have a complete open plan. So the moment you say there is one remote individual, you know that you've got to put everything into writing, we've got to have those structured meetings, because otherwise this one person is not going to be effective. Do all organizations have that? It depends how much they've thought it through, how much they wanted to succeed.
If I could just add to that point, right? You know, I think today it gets taken for granted that we will provide that infrastructure within the home environment. What we find with our managers as well is that ultimately as much structure as you might put in, ultimately I think it comes down to the trust that you have in the employee, right? And what's that environment that you are enabling?
So I think trust is not the issue. The trust, it's also visibility and information, because otherwise I'm counting so much on chatting to someone, you know, the whole thing of, you know, having this informal meeting, which none of which is available to a person who is at home. I don't know what's happening. So I trust them, but I have to give them information.
But Jesse, that's going to happen even if you have 2 levels of offices. It's not just going home. I mean, if you have 10 people sitting on one floor and then another 10 on another floor, the moment you go beyond one floor where everybody can see each other, this is going to come.
Correct. So that's why
And you
I
also have this complaint with people who are not in the head office, are in different locations, however important that location is. You know, as colleagues, we frequently have that conversation saying that, oh, you get to know what's happening because you're in
Yes,
Delhi,
exactly.
whereas we don't get to know. But, you know, so that loss in translation, I guess, does happen.
That loss in
But
translation-
my question was to do with the mindset. You know, a lot of organizations, though they allow people to work from home, are actually internally not prepared to sort of handle. Many of the bosses, many of the people are not psychologically geared towards people who are working from home. So they always think that the person who's at home is actually having a great time.
So if I can answer that, and it's not from my current experience, but sadly in India, the stereotypical person who's working from home is a young mother. And in fact, when I was starting my company, my husband was very clear saying, don't even work from home even if you can. Because the moment you say you're working from home, people assume this is some airy-fairy lifestyle business. She's probably half the time doing something else. You know, the whole picture starts to change. And part of the reason that this happens is, one is, in the past it has been gender specific. It has always been said you can work from home for a specific reason. So you went to HR and you made this sad case of how you had small child or aged parent or whatever, and you got approval. It was case to case. It was not a company-wide policy saying that if you have an output-dependent job and you have spent 3 years in the organization, you are automatically eligible for it. And therefore it got painted as people who are somewhat lame ducks, who didn't want to spend full time. So there is still a lot of that perception lingering in the workplace. And secondly, earlier communication was much tougher. Today with WhatsApp, you can actually be very much in touch, Skype, etc. So
But-
we're still dealing with that.
Shamni, I think there are studies which show that, unfortunately, the reality is that people who work from home are sort of left behind a bit in terms of the growth and the promotions. There are studies which actually show that, which is most unfortunate, because they may be doing a fantastic job, but that is something. So organizations have to go out of their way to deliberately ensure that they are pulled into the organization, they are not feeling alienated, and they are considered as people who are worthy of being taken to the next level. But there is, unfortunately, that
And if I
reality.
can mention that, it's also because, you know, the organizations are very wishy-washy about it. So they'll tell you can work from home, but then they also expect that 24 hours you're going to be available. So if, let's say, that someone calls you and you happen to be in the loo or washing clothes or whatever, which is allowed because you don't actually have set working hours, then it's like, oh, so all the time this is what you do, I see. So you were out making something else, oh, or you hear the doorbell ring, oh, is that a visitor for you? So that suspicion starts to enter, which is very unfair because you never said you couldn't do these things.
So I think just to add a couple of points, I think we've gone through this evolution.
Yes, please share your experience.
Yeah, where we've
Yes.
had to sensitize our senior guys and managers, saying this is not about, you know, getting on to the WebEx to see if that person is on the call or not. No, we've had these cases. And I think it's so much more about, I think as we discussed, I think it's so much about trusting your people, creating, you know, kind of giving them a pretty transparent framework. We do have policies where, you know, people who do take the flexi-work option or do work from home, we ensure there's a separate scan on in terms of the year-end performance rating. so that they don't lose out, or from a career move perspective, they don't lose out. The second point I want to make was that when I lived this working from home thing, as recently as 2011, 2014, I think there's also a lot of pressure on the person who's doing that work. Because what you're really doing is you are ensuring that you're still networked in the organization. You're doing the normal, mundane stuff that you need to do. And then when you're out on the road, which you need to plan it out, you then really ensure that you do kind of 15, 17 hours a day, because you're trying to make up for when you were not in the organization. And this is something that we're picking up as feedback from a lot of our people, who they do say that after 6-9 months, somewhere the guilt feeling comes in as well. That because I'm working from home, therefore I need to put in that extra. And maybe that explains the rise in productivity or the fact that they are just on top of the jobs. So I think they're trying to do a balancing act. We're pretty clear that they don't really need to go and burn themselves out, because there is a personal need, there's a personal situation. And those, I think, have been two insights for us.
Okay, and how did this, clearly this is an evolving space, so how did you sort of take your learning from to evolve this kind of thinking? It stemmed largely out of your personal experience, or did you sort of?
No, so I think, we mirror a lot of the organizations in India. We also have naysayers who say, this is all bull. Right? You guys are giving too much of flexibility and empowerment to your people without taking enough responsibility. So I think there is always that 10% of the people of leadership which you need to engage with, influence them, and ensure that most of the people who go through the experience get the necessary organization support. And wherever the 5-10% who flout, so we've had cases where people have taken work from home and have not responded for a couple of weeks. So we ensure that there is a mechanism available, that they are brought in, reported back, there are disciplinary processes that are put into play. So that the 10% don't spoil 90%. I think our experience has been that as we have discussed it more in open forums, in town halls, I think a lot of employee suggestions have come in. We have done beta versions of these policies. I think that interaction has helped. I think the openness to debate this issue out in the open has helped.
Sure. You want to share in terms of, do you see that requirement going up? Is it still a very gender-specific thing, or what's been what is the felt need? What's been your experience of the need expressed? While I do take into account that there's a different dynamic that is unleashed at work when people are together. Yes, all of that, but.
I think it's definitely, as like other people on the panel mentioned, it's definitely not a gender-specific requirement. I think today, that doesn't even come into the picture anymore, right? What we're seeing, however, is that what people are asking for is understanding from the organization, empathy in terms of what is it that, can you understand where I'm coming from, and what is it that the organization can do to support me with that so I can bring my best to work. And in that sense, I think we are geared to support them through multiple initiatives. So whether it's, an alternate start time where you can negotiate with your manager in terms of, hey, this is what works for me. I have these other commitments, and this is the timing that works for me. I can come in at this time, but I'd like to leave by this time. And, this is my assurance that I will work during office hours over here, and I'll also put in whatever extra work is needed at home. Or, opting to take a part-time option when you wish to, right? So that's something which I did personally as well at some point in my career, when I felt that I needed to take about 3 or 4 months as a part-time employee, and the organization was completely supportive to help me do that. So we're finding that it's really customized, it depends on each individual's life situation, and having a one-size-fits-all kind of a program may not necessarily support that. And so your policies, your guidelines need to be able to flex adaptively to that.
Can I say something? If you look at most of Meena Ganesh's startups of the recent past, they're all built around home delivery, almost all of them. Even Pochi is about home delivery of medicine, home delivery of groceries is Big Basket, home delivery of jewelry. So you're actually seeing that people are being forced into, or not forced, they would prefer to have everything home delivered because the traffic out there is just not worth the time that you're going to spend in it. I actually I'm going to predict that, the organizations of the future are not going to be built around these massive IT parks and hundreds of thousands of people, flooding in every morning and then, 2 hours back. They're going to be designed the way these organizations are designed, saying that let's figure out a way in which you can be productive sitting at home because it is better for the organization rather than have you sitting and, spending 3 hours in traffic. That's the only way a city can continue to grow, because in our current model, it's not scalable at all. It's not, when people don't want to work in office, not because of all the other advantages of productivity and so on,
Sure,
but because it's like madness to get out of the house.
In fact, organizations like Twitter Vista or from Portia, my experience is that there is a whole new construct that you have to create on how to work with employees whom you never see. Okay, maybe once in a quarter you may get to see when you go around and call all the people in that city into one big room and talk to them. That's the only time, and that's not a viable way to engage with them. So when organizations are moving into this, into looking at work from home as a big part of their lifestyle or their organization culture, it would be interesting to look at companies who just built completely around that. And ours is really small, it's few thousand people. But there are organizations which are much larger or much more mature who have actually used just this model to build their whole organization. So there's a lot of learning, or whether it's technology or the HR processes or how you have to. So, but also there are downsides of technology. So I'll just give you on a lighter side an example.
Yes,
One of the things that our tutors were supposed to do is that they once get paid for logging in, so they have to be present, and then for the number of sessions that they do, the number of hours of work that they do, they get additional compensation. So you need to literally be present and logged in, and there was a way to ping their systems to find out, or for them to ping our system to say that we are still there. Some very smart people had created little tools which would automatically do the pinging. So they go do something else while their systems are sitting there. So you have to figure out how, when people start to game those systems, then you have to figure out how to handle those. So we had to put in additional checks to see, they're pinging there, sitting there, but they have taken no session at all for 3 days in a row, then obviously they are pulling wool over our system. So while you may put all these nice things in place, then you have to also figure out how people can game that.
Yeah.
But more importantly was this whole bit about building culture. Every day we used to have a webinar, okay? And people from various places used to join in, and we used to just talk about some topic so that they still feel that they're part of this organization called Twitter Vista. I have my staff members in Portia Medical will tell the customer, call Portia, they will tell you what to do next. Like, hello, you are Portia, you're going meeting my customer, you're Portia. Don't say call Portia, they will tell you what to do next. So there are so many things that you have to look at. You never thought about it until you went into this model altogether.
Yeah. So, it's not also about life stage, it's about distance. People opt out of work. I've heard several people tell me that, half the time people are quitting because they just can't deal with the distance. And, you end up losing out on a very good talent because it's a challenge. It's, as cities are spreading out. And as she said, she's predicting a stage. I've actually met an entrepreneur who's planning a business model around creating these parks around corporate parks where people can come, do their meetings and get on with lives at different very critical points in the city where everybody can kind of congregate.
So there are plenty of those, and even our Delhi office is based on that model where she works from home, but she has a place to do meetings if it comes to that. Because again, India is not so evolved that everything can happen in a coffee shop. So there is a physical location, but it's not mandatory that you have to show up every day in this physical location. But, if you relook at org design, I don't think our current model I don't think anyone ever thought organizations would need, 100,000 people to 100,000 people. So we never thought of designing this kind of an opportunity for anyone.
So just to add to, I think, as we hear, I think we right now own the drawing board from a PwC perspective to really spread out our offices.
Okay.
Right, so we're actually looking at saying, how do you create clusters based on where most of your people stay? And, give them the flexibility to actually hot desk in from there or log in from there, because we have a large client interface that happens. So they don't really have to come back to the branch office or the head office. And that's something actually in the works. We're actually talking to people saying, how should that design look like? What would it eventually be if it were to be made attractive to you? And that has serious implications on infrastructure costs, real estate costs, transport costs, while elevating the employee experience, in terms of cutting down transport, the whole thing.
I don't think organizations have a choice today. Just knowing how things are when we look at the situation outside, we will be compelled to have to look at more innovative solutions in terms of how employees can still, manage that daily commute and, what's the best way to do it. Again, I think it's also role dependent, because there will be certain roles that really are workable when you can, maybe have a satellite office, or you can have a business park like you talked about, and people can come in there. But it may not suit all of the other roles.
That
we're
was
talking
the argument in the early days of outsourcing. If you recollect, it was always, we cannot outsource, anything that is core and which was defined as this huge chunk of work that could never go to India because it required in-depth client knowledge and blah, blah, blah. If you now look at it just 10 years down the line, that core is shrunk to maybe 20% more at most of the business, and everything else, because technology, communication costs has dropped, travel costs has dropped, a lot of stuff is being done remotely. And it really doesn't matter, right? If I can't see you, it really doesn't matter where you work from.
I agree, and that's the reason why, it's about innovation. And what lies in the future, what we'll come up with in future to actually help our employees do this more, and that's anyone's guess.
Also, I think for us, it's a bit of a challenge because we've got the frontline business, and then we've got the software delivery centers. So I think we, kind of go across the entire spectrum, and if you're trying to do something innovative on the client-facing staff side, you will get a lot of questions and queries and concerns saying, why can't be done for our model, which is more a offshore center model. I think that's the other challenge we continue to grapple with.
Fascinating, yeah,
Right.
yeah. So at this stage, I would like to invite the audience to ask questions, because I'm sure a lot of you must have dealt with this at a personal level. There must be lots of experiences that you would want the people to answer. Is there anybody who has any questions? Please.
I'm Satya from ITC Fortune Group of Hotels. I'm heading the HR department. But is it useful for working from home, increase productivity for hospitality industry?
Sorry, you're saying, is it useful?
In the
Yeah,
hospitality
this is
industry, is there
hospitality
a place
industry.
for work from
Yeah,
home?
yeah.
Yeah.
See, like I was saying earlier, it entirely depends on the roles that people play. If the role involves being in a certain location and meeting with customers, or meeting with, carrying out activities which have to be done at a particular location, obviously not. But I'm sure even in a hospitality industry, there may be back-end roles which could very well be done from a different location. So it's a question of, or even in a role, if you split the role into what needs to be done necessarily in situ, in front of somebody else, and take away parts of it and put those together into a different role which can be performed from a different location. So in every industry, there is an opportunity, but it may be lesser in some places and more in some others.
Thank you.
If I can add, self-check-in can be done remotely, concierge service can be done remotely, wake-up calls, operators, a lot of your stuff can actually be done remotely if you wanted it to be. It doesn't matter anymore. Only the stuff the customer actually sees in person has to be done on site.
Thank you.
Yeah, is there anyone else wanting to ask? Yeah, is there somebody at the back? Yes?
Yeah, hi. I'm Kalyan from Electronic Solutions. My question is with regard to a lot of people, the kind of technologies that are available, and what is the gap in the technologies that are currently available to facilitate wider aspect of remote operations compared to what it is today, and what is your experience and anticipation that you as users of the remote access and remote technologies that you are looking for?
So I think till I had not worked from home, I thought this is not doable. And when you're going to work from home, the video conferencing on your laptops, your same time connects, I think it's just doable. I think your question is, are we anticipating how will be, because the future of work is going to be very different. whether we will collaborate in different geographies, how will we do it. I think technologies will evolve. But the current point of time, I think it's too, unless there's something that Pan would say.
I agree with you. In fact, like I said, our staff members used to work from all over the country. From about 60, 70 cities, I used to have people who log in at 3 in the morning and 4 in the morning and do sessions. Technology worked. I don't think there was an issue. Now, as a company, I have to build in some level of coverage. So if one person doesn't turn up, the other turns up. I have to provide the backups. That's my problem. But they were working fine from wherever they were.
Okay, no more questions. I think it was very.
One more.
There's one more. Okay, we'll take one last question. Can we have the mic?
Yeah, so this is Pritesh here.
Somebody else.
Yeah.
Maybe we
I
can
am,
take that offline. Yeah, please
yeah,
carry
can I
on.
speak? Okay,
Yeah.
fine. This is Pritesh. I am heading the HR of a land developer company. It's a real estate company called BCIL. My actually question is very basic. If you want to go ahead and address this, working from home increases productivity. Now, we all know that today's business model works on teams. Now, I have this one team of architects who I can give the permission to work from home. Or in fact, my company can give the permission. But this team of civil engineers have to be on site. They are contemporaries in their own department. At this particular juncture, is it fair enough as an HR, when you see organizational productivity at the helm of affairs, to allow one team to do it, which means since both the needs are similar, or the human needs of the architects and the human needs of the civil engineers are synonymous when you talk about flexibility. But as an HR, is it fair enough to create a policy like that, as you all agreed that it depends on roles? Depending on roles, can you be biased to have one team working from home, one team which has to be at site?
That's a good question.
Can I give a non-HR answer? Life is unfair. The poor civil engineer anyway bakes in the sun, while your architects, I bet, are sitting in an air-conditioned, nice corporate office. You can't solve for inequalities. But that doesn't mean that the architect doesn't get AC because the civil engineer is struggling on the site.
No.
Now you can have the HR answer. Architect answer, life is unfair.
Good one, Jesse. No, so I think one is obviously the role, which is a challenge. But as we said, no, this is not a generic rule for everybody. No, all of us will have personal situations. So if the civil engineer, one of the civil engineers has a personal situation, maybe he may have other roles that he can go into for some time till the personal situation gets addressed. But we're not saying that, all the architects work from home and all the civil engineers go and serve out in the sun.